last video was terrible. So, we're gonna redo it. Well, not redo the video, but I'll make this one better. Alright, I'm gonna do 2 stories this time, and it'll be much better. I live in the Montana countryside and the farm, really more of a complex my family and I live on with some other families, all of them dear friends of ours. Each of us have a house with all the usual rural amenities, outhouses, ones that suck to get to in the winter, and stables just outside for the horses. My family has a few dogs to help us with the herding too. All in all, it's 4 families including mine and 14 people in total. Greg and Melinda were still trying for kids. It's about 550 acres of bare nothing for the most part. A loose little collection of trees and shrubs that maybe could qualify as a forest of some sort, and a whole lot of open grassland for the cattle that we all raised as a group. Me and my wife Belle have 2 kids. They're little bundles of joy and love everything about where we live. Never had a complaint up until recently. The other families were Greg and Melinda, Jeff and Sonia, Rachel and Brian. That's who made up the adults of the complex, and for the most part, the main players in the story here. Where the story starts is when Brian's kid went missing. The kids had all been playing about 400 yards from the home and were with my dog Coop, who very likely and usually does watch all of them. He's a herding dog, so he keeps him in line by the creek out that way. For whatever reason, though, Philip got away. The kids all came back and said Philip left before them to come home, but evidently never made it. The next couple of days, the fathers all rode out along the property and tried to find him. We had a pretty good lay of the land, obviously, but those Montana hills got pretty tricky to navigate for us older folk. Underbrush and little foxholes all over the place he could be in. We searched day and night, camped out most nights too, riding out with lanterns and shouting for him. On the 5th day of this, we found him. He was real weary and stumbling in the right direction toward the home, but we were far from where the kids were. It took us about 2 hours to get back to the complex, so we were more than 20 miles out. The kid looked real thin, had these sunken eyes and hollow cheekbones which took me a bit off guard, but he was also 7, so maybe he lost weight pretty darn quick, not eating and somehow getting 20 miles out. When we got back, he was mumbling something in his dad's ear. Brian kept nodding and I could tell he was concerned by his eyes, but I don't know what the kid said. A few more days passed. The kid was mostly normal, just asking a lot of questions, and some weird ones too. Like he asked my son John if we could eat this a whole lot, pointing at random plants and the sort. Me and the guys all went out for a beer by that creek. We laughed and talked about Philip. Apparently, besides the random and increasingly frustrating amount of questions, Brian wasn't really concerned about his health. We laughed and talked for a few more hours until the sun crept behind the mountains, and we knew that the wives were going to be waiting for us, so we got back up to ride in. That's when we heard it for the first time. A clicking noise, like when you use your tongue on the top of your mouth. I pulled my gun out since it was coming from the other side of the creek. The dusk light, if you don't know, is the hardest time for humans to see, and boy did I figure that out quick. I saw nothing but shaky grass. Everyone said I was jumpy and grilled me the whole way back, telling themselves never to try and spook me. The horses didn't jump either, so I figured it was just me. Those things, especially my Meredith, would sense a rattlesnake from a football field away. When we got back, the sun was gone and the chill had set in. I went inside and had dinner with my family. All was well. Over the next 3 weeks, we lost 2 more of our kids, 1 from each family, all by the creek. Each time they'd show up, my John and Jeff's Tyler, both thin and stumbling right where we found Philip a month ago now. We had a meeting with all of us telling everyone not to go by the creek anymore. I had a lot of questions. I'm not sure why Coop let them all get away, especially John, since that dog didn't leave his side. But Coop didn't hang out much around him after he got back. Both Philip and Tyler were 9, and oh boy did they ask a lot of questions like never before. Philip, Tyler, and John got real close too. Maybe a shared trauma, I thought. Me and the husbands agreed to ride out there again, but farther. I wanted to see what was out there, where all 3 of our kids kept coming back from. Greg offered a bit of pushback. He didn't want to ride out that way, especially with something being dangerous. And he was quite the superstitious type. It didn't go his way, though, and we rode out the next day. Philip, John, and Tyler were very much against us, telling us that nothing was out there. They just followed the wrong trail. We rode hard out there, trying to go fast and make it back soon. About 28 miles near the end of our land, we found a dilapidated and sad-looking little shack. I got off first and walked up to it, rifle in hand. The boys followed close behind me, calling out to me to slow down. I didn't really listen. I creaked open the door, holding on by one hinge at the top, and it fell over when I did. I stepped in only to see a tunnel going down. A tunnel, like an abandoned mining operation. I turned on my oil lantern and stepped down into it. I heard that clicking too, loud from down there. I called out to tell the other guys to ride back and get some kind of help. I knew this was bad. They listened to me. Be safe, Brian told me. I walked down and it got damp real quick. Felt like there was water just on the other side of the dirt walls. I followed the clicking, but it was moving back and forth, pacing. I got to this opening deep in there and something dripped onto my forehead. I looked up and saw a sack. That's the best word for it. It looked like a cyst, just inside was a man. I don't know who it was, but he was stuck in there like an embryo. Its slime falling onto me and I kept moving. The clicking stopped when I saw a few more, just with the kids inside of them. I stood in shock and backed away slowly. The clicking came back right behind me, and I didn't turn around. It asked very calmly, but not with a human voice. I could just barely understand it. I guess it felt like it was just speaking in my mind. Can I eat you? I stood motionless and didn't do anything. Can I eat you? Again, I didn't do anything. Can you help me? I closed my eyes and pushed past it the way I came in. It felt like a sponge as my arm sank into its shoulder, I guess. I ran fast, and when I knew it was behind me, I opened my eyes and booked it. There were so many of those sacks, maybe 30. I heard it rolling or something towards me and clicking loud and aggressively. Then it spoke in my son's voice. "Wait, Dad!" I gasped and kept going. I knew it wasn't him. I got on my horse and rode fast when I got out. It stopped after about 20 minutes of riding and I heard it rolling back into its hole. The worst part is, when I got home, nobody was there. The dogs were playing outside, everyone's horses were grazing with the cows, but the people were all gone. I write this from my room now. Questions were scribbled all over the walls in paint and probably blood. I'm not sure what to do or what happened. The nearest city is no doubt a few good hours away by car, and all of them had their engines torn apart. I can't get that clicking noise out of my head. It sounds like it's coming from the walls now, all around me. Alright, I hope you enjoyed that one. Don't go anywhere yet. I got another one for you. The boy beneath the bridge has an actual name, of course, but mentioning it might give away where the story takes place. And for your own safety, it's best I avoid that. Those of you who know about this story, though, will already know what I'm talking about. Back in the day, in a world without the internet or video games, people had to get a little creative to entertain themselves. If you were a student with a lot of time on your hands, it was especially easy to get bored. One of the more popular pastimes at one point were breath-holding contests. It was a simple game. Whoever could hold their breath the longest, won. It didn't require much either, just 2 people and a clock. But it was an easy way to pass time. Sadly, one of these games went terribly wrong. A group of boys became a little too competitive and decided to have their breath-holding contest underwater, near the bridge. Unfortunately, one of them took it far too seriously and refused to surface, even as his lungs began to burn for a breath of fresh air. At first, the other boys cheered, impressed by how long he could keep his head submerged, but they soon realized something was wrong. When they pulled him out, they saw he had passed out at some point. The boy did not survive, even after being rushed to the hospital. And while a boy did pass away during that time period with a matching name, it was from a completely unrelated incident. The story likely started out as just a cautionary tale that got terribly out of hand, but there is more to the story. There's a game you can play. Go to that same bridge just after midnight. If you declare that you want to have a breath-holding contest and then successfully hold your breath underwater for at least 3 minutes, it is said that you will awaken the boy's spirit, which is still trapped beneath the shallowy depths. All of this is just an urban legend. Or so I thought. That is, until some of my buddies convinced me to try it when we were drunk one night. As you can imagine, nothing happened. At least, nothing happened at first. You see, the legend goes a step further. Once you complete the challenge, you will begin to see the boy's spirit in any body of water large enough to drown in. It could be a nearby lake, a river, or even your bathtub or sink if it's deep enough. Once you see his reflection in the water, you have to hold your breath, because for each breath you take, he can take one step closer to you, emerging from the water into the real world. Once he latches onto you, there is no escape. He'll drag you down into your own watery grave. Again, I thought nothing of this until tonight. I was house-sitting for some neighbors. I hadn't realized that they left their bathtub filled before leaving, likely having drawn it for a bath, but then forgetting about it, and also forgetting to drain it. When I went to drain it, I saw it in the water. It wasn't my reflection. It was the reflection of a mottled corpse glaring at me. Needless to say, I took a deep breath. That was my first mistake. A head began to emerge from the water. I took another breath, and then another, gasping for air in shock as he emerged from the shallow depths. At one point, he was only a hand's breadth away from me, and I could smell the rot and decay laden in the air. Thankfully, my brain finally kicked in and I held my breath as I backed away, barely avoiding his touch. He turned his head, his lifeless eyes still filled with hate from beyond the grave, though the rest of him remained motionless. If I didn't know any better, there was a mocking smile on his lips, as if saying, "How much longer can you hold your breath?" I ran downstairs, holding my breath until I reached the front door. Naturally, the distance had winded me, and I ended up gasping for air as I heard footsteps echoing from upstairs. My lungs were burning, but I knew I couldn't give in and finally held my breath, the stench of decay having gotten closer. I fumbled with the lock, but the door refused to open. It was jammed. I just needed to put a little elbow grease into it, but that's hard to do when you're trying to hold your breath. I felt myself getting lightheaded as I made very little progress. Should I risk the back door, or should I give some respite to my burning lungs and try forcing this open? Ultimately, I chose to try the front door, taking a few desperate breaths as I tried to shoulder into it. Trying to pry it open, it remained unbudging. As my lungs greedily took in what they had been lacking, I heard his footsteps get louder and louder before they stopped as I paused. I turned around and saw that he had completely blocked the hallway. There was only the door behind me as a way out, which refused to open. I'm sure there's more to the urban legend. I'm sure there's a way to get rid of him forever. Only, I don't know it. Before I started typing this out on my phone, he was at the end of the corridor leading to the front door. By now, he's already taken 5 steps, and I'm no way closer to getting the front door open. I'm trying to hold out as long as I can, but any help would be appreciated, and quickly. I feel like my chest is about to explode. Alright, kind of wish there was a part 2 to that, but maybe there will be, and if there is, then I'll read that too, but there isn't one yet. How long ago was this posted? 7 days? Yeah, 7 days ago. So, yeah, that story, these 2 stories are way better than the last one I read. So, I also apologize for the last story. That last story was kind of fucking disgusting. So, yeah, I apologize for that. But, I do hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, like, subscribe, do whatever you gotta do. Ignore it. I really don't care. But, yeah, see you guys in the next one.